got the Chicago on.
No, Miami.
Football. Everybody was off.
You kind of cutting in and out, brother.
Cutting in and out.
Yeah, like do you have your phone setting up on something to where the bottom where the microphone might be getting covered up a little bit? Or is it in a? Sometimes that happens. What's going on? Better Days with Peter Hayes.
Hey, it's happening.
All right.
Y'all can hear me all fine?
Yep, we can hear you fine. How you doing, Brother Leonard? Yeah, it's just choppy.
You still breaking up,
like...
Leonard.
All right, let me switch out. Let me go get my headset.
Well, I mean, no, hold on. You sound good right now.
I'm good now?
Yeah,
you
so whatever just happened, you're good now.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta freeze. you gotta freeze that. Whatever it is. What's going on, America? It is the Truth Be Told show. It's yours truly, Mr. Just Ask Joe, the one and only Uncle Meeshawn. The what's that tagline? Uncle Meeshawn, the neighborhood agitator. Is that it?
The neighborhood agitator, the one and only.
All right, Brother Leonard Walker coming in the building today, as well as Better Days with Peter Hayes. Folks, it's the Truth Be Told show. We're going to go ahead and get busy and get this thing going. It is Tuesday, October 25th, 2022, and it is the only Tuesday, October 25th, 2022 that you will ever get in your life. So make sure that you make today a great freaking day. All right? It's the Truth Be Told show, y'all.
All right, cue the music. Start the music.
Starting music.
And go.
It's the Truth Be Told show, where we place America first. Honoring those who America has forgotten. Listen in and unlearn to relearn. As we set the record straight. And now, your host of the Truth Be Told show, Mr. Just Ask Joe and Uncle Meeshawn.
All right. We're back in the building, folks. It's another week, and we got some good stuff going on, some good things to talk about. We definitely want to make sure that we pay homage to Brother John Cole before we move anywhere, because again, he's considered the street mayor. And regardless of how you felt about Cole's place or the issues surrounding it or what have you on any given time, then you still had a brother who was trying to do something in the community. All right, trying to do something great in the community. Entrepreneur, took his started doing tours with the bus and
right,
the limousine service and all of that stuff, so I mean, it was a good example of entrepreneurship and a good example of what happens when you grow up and mature, and ain't nothing wrong with that. So just want to remember him. He recently passed on the 21st of October, just the other day. It's only the 25th. And, just want to make sure that we pay tribute to him. He was the owner and operator of Cole's Place. He's survived by old lady Rosalind Bridges, his children, Deshaun Cole Ellis, Jonathan Cole, Joshua Bridges, Stephanie Cole, grandchildren, Deshaun Ellis Jr., Ashlyn Ellis, Jaya Cole, Jari Cole, Jace Cole, siblings Nancy Shelton, Warren, Joan Cole, Fannie Cole, George Thomas Cole, Robert Arnold, Linda, and a host of nephews, great nieces, great nephews, family, and friends. The visitation is from 4 to 8 p.m. Friday, October 28th at Burnett Avenue Baptist Church, 6800 South Hurstbourne Parkway. The funeral is 11 a.m. Saturday, October 29th at the church. The burial is at Cave Hill Cemetery. So if you want to, go pay tribute and homage to the brother, then that's the information there. So good stuff there.
Yeah. I just want to put my 2 cents on this as well, man. Is that you regardless of how you felt about John Coles and what with the operation, the brother definitely was out there trying to do what he thought was the best thing he could do in trying to provide a space for his demographics of people to do what they do. And again, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. He's born before us. Okay, he was born 1957. So, seen things and experienced things that I hadn't, and he did it from what he thought was the best way to do what he had to do. And even though I used to go down there and have conversations about some of the stuff he was doing, but it is what it is. He thought it was the things that he needed to do. So I'm the one calling him as saying the mayor, the street mayor. Okay, I used to say it all the time, street mayor, because I recognize no matter what, he had more people come through his facilities than most churches had happening on Saturday and Sunday. Would you say so, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter?
He opened up his facility to the community, and he had a lot of community groups that he let use his facility. So he was definitely a neighborhood leader and a great asset to Louisville. He worked with us with Man Up quite a bit. We had trainings there and anti-violence workshops with a lot of different efforts. He opened up his, like I said, Cole's Place. On the weekend it was kind of hopping with music and hip hop and Fridays and Saturday night, but during the week and during the day there's a lot of community groups, and he didn't charge them, so he always let them use it for free, which was very admirable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So created a space that the community come together and pretty much run different nonprofit events, positive events, and things of that nature. Regardless of whatever it may have been, the clubs that pay for things, to be able to open the doors to do that. Either way, the brother's gone, and we just want to pay our respects. So, with that being said, rest in heaven, rest in peace. Just rest, brother John Cole. All right. Now, we want to jump in here as well. About any other things going on. Anything's going on in you guys' mind for this past week, or anything you guys want to talk about?
No, well, let's talk about this. Get this off the top. Britney's gonna get hit up for 9 years. Supposed to be trying to go back to court for an appeal and everything. Britney and Russia.
Brittany Griner, the 8-time WNBA All-Star and 2-time WNBA Defensive Player of the Year, found guilty of drug charges in Russia and sentenced to 9 years in prison in August, and her appeal date has been set for October 25th, which is today. If the appeal is unsuccessful, Griner could be sent to a labor camp. Wow. Wow. I'm wondering what in the world was, and I'm curious as to know, like how much was it? Not that, it does matter, honestly, but because it's another country. I don't know what their laws are when it comes to drugs and stuff like that, but I'm thinking that there's a potential that they could go overboard in comparison to America. You have a ounce of weed or something like that, and then you go into jail for 10 years like this. I mean, I don't know. Anybody know how much it was?
It was actually a vaping pen that had marijuana CPD in it.
No, stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
And she
Are you
claimed,
serious?
she didn't know it was put in her suitcase, which I don't know. That might be that was her defense that it was an accident. But no, she's being held as a political pawn, really, because
Yeah,
normal days, well, even in Russia, which has very strict drug laws, but in normal days she would have probably just got a slap on the wrist, but she's being held as part of this
political
battle
pawn.
between. Yep.
So go ahead and explain that for those that don't know. We got the Russia-Ukraine war, and then we got this Brittany Griner situation where a vaping weed vaping pen is what was found. I'm thinking we're gonna find some serious drugs or something like that for 9 years to be, something they want to uphold in Russia. But are you serious? A vaping pen?
Yeah.
So, what's the political side of that?
Well, there's a couple different angles. Brittany Griner has been playing over in Russia because they could make a lot of money. So those WNBA players would go play Russia during the summer.
International ball, absolutely.
Yeah. And she's also a pretty well-known lesbian, and the Russians are not very big on homosexuality, so that's part of it too. But yeah, because the battle between Russia and the West, she's being used as a pawn, because they've been talking about an exchange for a Russian spy with 2 Americans. It's pretty much a done deal, but I think Russia's and Putin is just sticking it to us,
Wow.
It also shows how weak Biden is, because that would have never happened under Trump.
Nah. That's wild. Here, let's take a look at a video real quick. I
don't think Putin would have invaded Crimea under Trump either.
Well, I mean, think about it. He waited until Trump was gone, and we got this real flimsy president in office.
But
and
I still don't. That's a measure.
Go ahead, Leonard.
Go ahead, Leonard.
I don't think that's a measure of strength. I think that's a measure of manipulation. I mean, you look and see what's going on with Trump and his relationship with Putin. When he got on the stand and he just simply asked Putin, "Hey, did you tamper with our elections?" And Putin said no. And he said, "Okay, well, that's good enough for me." Nah. So yeah. So I think, like I said, it's a relationship that's there that would cause Putin and Trump, Putin not to do things to make Trump look bad, unless, there was some sort of situation or incident. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say. I don't like Biden's response, obviously. Okay. But it does make him look weak in this situation. But these are things that, like I said, it's all about, just like in business, they say it's all about relationships. So, Trump has.
Yeah, and Trump had the relationship that Biden doesn't. And so even when you think about it, keep your enemies close.
Right.
That's a good strategy to have.
That's an all-time. That's a known terminology, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. So and
what was interesting is. Yeah, interesting. The Trump administration put the harshest sanctions against Russia we've ever seen in our country. So they may have tried to be open, on some level, but he was really pretty strict with Russia and North Korea and Iran. And now all 3 of them are going hog wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are the sanctions still there, or?
Well, Biden's been lifting some of them in Iran and not Russia after this latest thing, but he's hell bent on making a deal with Iran, and Iran is now helping Russia with their missiles. So, there's a new axis of evil: China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, North Korea,
Yeah.
Cuba.
Let's
Kind of
let's
the
get
old,
into this. Let's get
wow.
into this video real quick. We want to get into this video, then we'll go to commercial. But Brittany Griner spends
Spending her
32nd
32nd birthday in a Russian jail, Brittany Griner releases a message through her lawyers saying, quote, "Thank you, everyone, for fighting so hard to get me home. All the support and love are definitely helping me." But her attorneys tell CNN Griner's increasingly worried about her appeal next week and about a reported proposal by the U.S. for a prisoner swap.
Brittany can't help thinking that if this swap doesn't happen, she'll have to spend the whole period of the sentence in Russia.
That's a 9-year sentence for drug smuggling. Griner pleaded guilty to that charge this summer, but said she accidentally packed the less than 1 gram of cannabis oil she was carrying when she was arrested at a Moscow airport in February. Griner's Russian lawyers now say she's struggling emotionally. Asked by CNN how she's faring in prison,
I would say she's pretty good, not better than other inmates, not worse. She is a very likable character, so it helps in both the personnel of the jail and the inmates. They like her pretty much.
her Russian lawyer told the New York Times Griner is allowed outside once a day when she walks for an hour in a small courtyard at a penal colony outside Moscow. They say she spends the rest of her time in a small cell with 2 other inmates, that she sleeps on an elongated bed to accommodate her 6'9" frame. A Russian journalist who visited Griner last spring told the Times Griner was reading a translation of a Dostoevsky novel and a biography of the Rolling Stones, that she played a board game with her cellmates similar to the game Battleship. Despite that portrayal of somewhat tolerable conditions, experts say penal colonies like the one Griner's in can be brutal.
Disease is rampant, abuse takes place, the conditions in cells are very small, the space of cells is very small, there's limited communication with the outside world.
Griner's wife, Sherelle, recently told CBS News in their most recent call, Brittany's voice told the whole story.
The minute I hung up, I think I cried for about 2-3 days straight. I did not get out of my bed. It was the most disturbing phone call I'd ever experienced.
U.S. officials spoke to Griner and fellow American detainee Paul Whelan today by phone and have communicated with Russian officials in recent days about their cases, according to a senior administration official. But as for Vladimir Putin's side,
they are playing hardball on this one. They think they've got a lot of bargaining leverage here, and they're making apparently very unreasonable demands.
When asked recently by CNN if he would consider meeting with Vladimir Putin at the upcoming G20 summit, President Biden said he has no intention of meeting with Putin. But then he said he would if Putin came to him and wanted to talk about the release of Brittany Griner. That's the only way they'll speak, according to President
Biden. Yeah.
Wow. So he's not making a serious effort when it comes to that. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Am I seeing this wrong, or what y'all think?
Behind the scenes, but what do you think? I mean, you would think with a war going on, he would sit down with Putin at that G7 meeting, and even if they cuss each other out, but but Trump sat down with him a couple of times, and Kim Jong-un, which was historical. So I wonder if just a strategy is sitting down with our so-called enemies and negotiating versus, just staying apart and, having verbal spars in the media, whether that's a better strategy.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Trump was big on some verbal spars in the media as well. He was always at the media talking stuff.
Yeah, but that's what brought him to the table. He called Kim Jong-un rocket man. But during his period, we didn't have any nuclear tests. We didn't have any. Now they're doing nuclear tests up the yin yang. They're shooting rockets over Japan. So, but anyway, I just wonder overall diplomatic strategy. What do y'all think? Should people sit down and air out their dirty linen, or just stay separate and not talk to each other?
Man, I tell you what,
proper negotiation is always
go ahead,
good face to face. Some type of diplomacy, the ability to have a face to face diplomacy to talk out stuff is always a good strategy. At least y'all in the same room together having a conversation. Doing that crap across the phones or over the internet and all that stuff is not always good. So sometimes that face to face, looking eye to eye, is just a good way of communication.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll talk about it real quick when we come back, and then we're going to get into this conversation about marriage. The theme for today is the importance of marriage in the 21st century fading? All right, is the importance of marriage in the 21st century fading? And we'll get into the conversation about the decline in marriage when we come back right here on Truth Be Told Show.
Thank you, Truth Be Told, for allowing God's Lives Matter to be a sponsor. Wearable products, as the purple t-shirt, is bearing witness every life created by God has infinite value. Visit God'sLivesMatter.com.
Habibi Trading Company, home of soap, sticks, and Saya Baba products. Over 400 locations at a store near you. Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or find yours online at sayababa.com. Again, that's sayababa.com. Habibi Trading Company, where you can find fragrances to incite your senses.
Hey folks, check out HealthDaddyWow.net. 100% plant-based herbs and supplements. Whether you're in person or online, use the word tipping for 10% off. Remember, feel better, look great, HealthDaddyWow.net. Remember, HealthDaddyWow.net.
All right, cue the music.
Cue music.
Start the music.
Starting music.
And go.
It's the Truth Be Told show, where we place America first. Honoring those who America has forgotten. Listen in and unlearn to relearn. As we set the record straight. And now, your host of the Truth Be Told show, Mr. Just Ask Joe and Uncle Nishorn.
All right, folks. Once again, it's Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. It's the Truth Be Told show. And just want to kind of, finish up that last conversation. Anybody else have anything to say concerning that whole Putin Biden thing? Y'all good on that? Okay. All right. Well, cool. Well, let's get into the main topic of the day. Is the importance of marriage in the 21st century fading? And Mr. Married himself has jumped off the screen there. I'm sure he'll be right back. But the decline in marriage, is you guys got any numbers on that?
Yeah, I'm
decline in marriage. Here, I'll pull up something here that Peter has shared. It says it's the United States Congress Joint Economic Committee, and it says that the decline or U.S. marriage rates hit a new record low. This is as of April 29th of 2020. Data released yesterday shows wedding bells are growing even fainter in states across America. The decline in marriage can be seen in the data even before any political impact of the corona, that thing, because we don't say that word, which is expected to lower the numbers even further due to social distancing related delays. Man, so people couldn't get married as much because of the C disease. According to the latest data from the National Center for Health Statistics, marriage rates hit an all-time low in 2018, the most recently recorded year. The national marriage rate fell from 6.9 to 6.5 marriages per 1,000 people. From 2017 to 2018, the dip was the first noticeable change in a fairly stable trend over the past decade, following a long decline starting in the mid-1980s. As recently as 2001, the national rate was 8.2 marriages per 1,000 people. Wow. So we're now down to 6.5 marriages per 1,000 people. And as you look at this, then
Hummus.
You know, then it's crazy. They said the 1980s, and it's interesting what happened in the 1980s. You know, especially in the melanated community, you had you know, of course the 70s civil rights movement, and then the 80s you had the crack wars, 80s and 90s, which is kind of interesting timeline there. Marriages decline in the midst of that. Only about half of U.S. adults, 51%, are currently married. The share is highest among Asians, 61%, and lowest among African Americans, 31%, with whites at 55% and Hispanics at 48% in between. So only about half of U.S. adults, 48%, are currently married, which kind of coincides with the idea that over 40% of children born today in America are born out of wedlock, or are born in non-married situations, right? Or born out of wedlock, right? So that's the over 41% there for that number, and then 51%. Only about 51% are currently married. So that those numbers kind of coincide with each other. And you know, just the same when you start looking at those numbers, the Asian community, who you hear little about, you know, you heard a little bit about them. I don't know. I don't even remember. It's so quick. What was it? Something happened in the Asian community, and next thing you know, there were commercials about Asian bullying and all this type of stuff. I forget what that was that happened. Y'all remember? It was like 2020.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Hate crimes.
What was it?
You had some hate crimes. That guy in Atlanta killed a couple Asians, a couple.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, like it happened so fast, and then you know, I mean, hate crimes been happening to the melanated community for years, and you ain't seen a hate crime television commercial in forever, and then all of a sudden, hate crime happens in the Asian community, and boom, commercials.
Yeah, and you know, there was kind of a pushback because what happened is the Asian community said, "Well, yeah, we're targets of crime." Mostly it was from African Americans, they claimed. And so they kind of squashed it because, you know, Biden was trying to pit one group against another group. And when the Asians say, yeah, you know, because they're in the cities, most of the violence against Asians are from African Americans. And so they kind of squashed it. They kind of, you know, pulled back like, oh, okay, we don't want to talk about this issue.
Yeah. Johnny Wakefield says marriage is a union between two people who have a heart's desire to become one under the covering of God. The understanding of marriage and what it signifies as two becoming one has been lost, and it is sad to see. Absolutely. So, you know, what do you guys think contributes to the decline in marriage?
Well, let's first of all is ask the question: is marriage a standard? Should marriage be considered a standard as as a demographics of people, born with belief in God, humanity, should marriage be considered a standard for
in
success?
today's society? Yeah, is it still beneficial? Yeah.
Is marriage that's a good question. Is marriage still considered beneficial? Is it considered a favorable thing in our society? I think that needs to be a question.
The numbers kind of tell us no, right?
Huh?
The numbers tell us
the
no.
numbers kind of tell us no.
Well, I wouldn't say it doesn't tell us that it's not beneficial. I think it's the struggle. I mean, all the social scientific data says that marriage is very beneficial to the married couples, to the children, to the families, and to society. So I guess that's a different question. Is it, obviously with those numbers, with only 51% married, is it, is that a good thing or bad thing? But, it's funny, liberal and conservative social scientists all agree that marriage is very important. From the very fact that you have two breadwinners. Economically, it's important, spiritually, mentally, and kids do a lot better when they have a mom and dad pretty stable. Not all marriages are great, and there's dysfunctional two-parent families, but by and large, they're good for kids and they're good for society. One study I remember when I used to do some lectures on this, they studied, actually like a single parent from the East End of Louisville, and we know that, the three of us at least, versus two-parent families in the projects. And guess what? The kids that lived in a two-parent family in the project did better than the kids grown up in the East End or, wealthy, upper middle class wealthy that were single parent. And that's very interesting. But it just shows the stability of marriage and parenting. So even though the East End single mom or whatever had plenty of money, but their kids turned out worse than, a two-parent family in the projects that were, struggling, working people struggling just to survive. But that stability of a mom and dad in the home was so important to the success of the children.
I think
that breaks a lot of stereotypes, doesn't it?
Right. To break me to add to Mishan's point, I think what we have to do is when we say marriage, okay, we have to say, when we have to talk about what do we mean by marriage? I mean, are we talking about marriage, going down to the courthouse and getting a marriage license, or marriage based upon whatever faith you follow and whatever culture you follow? I think either way, any of this type of union, where there are vows, where two people have to make vows, or sometimes three people have to make vows, depending on your culture, where there's a commitment and a spiritual bond is something it's has to be recognized, and you have to put that out there. So these things are things that work, right? And there's all types of evidence that shows that it works, right? So like I said, should it be a standard? But definitely for family building, okay? If you're trying to build a family, okay, and I've said this before, is if you go half on a baby and you're not cohabitating with each other, that means half of your income has to go towards supporting that child and the other person. You're splitting your resources in half when you do that. And the more children you have, when men don't live with the mothers, or the mothers are not living with the fathers, you're dividing your money up, so you'll never be able to gain wealth that way. All right, when you do that, and that's like I said, I went through that myself, so I can tell you, right, for a fact that is something that is true. I actually got custody of my son, so that helped in that situation. But I tell you, having, children with people that you really don't want to be with. That's kind of tough. I think what Michonne is trying to say, and I've said this before, is in other countries, all right, in other places that I've been, I know for sure, there's a cultural expectation, all right, where you're culturally, this is what you're supposed to do within this particular culture, all right, plain and simple. And these things breed success. So without that type of cultural expectation, you're kind of wide open for kind of doing how you want to do. This is a country about freedom, all right? And you're free to succeed and you're free to fail, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you have to, that's something, you got to kind of take in consideration. Says when you start to lock yourself into a cultural paradigm, all right, even though it's beneficial, what about those that, don't feel like this or feel like that or have these types of thoughts? See, so that goes against their freedom. So in this nation, freedom is extremely important. And that even goes that even extends to marriage. All right. As we see, men can marry men, women can marry women. The only thing we can't do is you can't have polygamy. So, and I presume pretty soon that domino is going to fall as well. But
yeah, because we see a lot of stuff about polygamy, polyamorous relationships, and things of that nature. But to Johnny's point, about stats of single women being more happier than married women. I'm skeptical about that because a lot of the research is it's coming from different psychologists that say that these are their opinions. Whatever. I haven't seen much on polls concerning that, but nonetheless, experts are saying that single women are happier than married women. Psychology Today quoted expert Paul Dolan, professor of behavioral science at the London School of Economics, as saying that single women with no children are the happiest. Now, I would say damn near anybody with no children could potentially be the happiest.
At what age are we talking about? Are we talking about 20 years old?
Exactly. And see, this is the thing when you quote a lot of these psychologists and stuff like that, these are the parameters that start to, if you're really thinking, these are the parameters that you need to think about, so you're right, Leonard, what age is it? If you're talking young married women who still got that, I want to get out and go kick it with my girlfriends thing, going on, I want to be out with my girlfriends all the time going on, well, yeah, that woman ain't gonna be that happy when her dude is like, hold up, we married. You can't be out like every day, every weekend, ripping with your girlfriends, and we're married. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely see that. But they say studies that compare subjective satisfaction among married and unmarried people tend to find that married people and those in committed relationships are happier than those who are single. And this seems true of both men and women, although the effects are not large. And this is Psychology Today is getting married a bad deal for women. So, apparently there's info on both sides of it saying, that married people are happier and single people are happier.
Yeah, I haven't heard that single people are happy ever. That's kind of interesting. I'd like to,
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, just some psychologists said
maybe
that.
Person is not ready for marriage. Okay.
Yeah.
Single young lady in college, trying to get her education, trying to, live out her dream or move to, I could see her be happy, right? Living the life that she's living as long as she doesn't have children. But that's the other thing. So, you got to also look at where are we talking about? Are we talking about in the UK? Or are we talking about in the United States?
Yeah.
So those are other factors you got to look at. I think a lot of these studies that you got to look at, you have to look at those parameters. That's just like I'm on blackdemographics.com. And one of the things that stick out, the biggest things that stick out is never married. Okay. The category of people who are never married. Right. And you have, even though the statistics show that, you have children born out of wedlocks, 50% of melanated people will never marry, according to the 2020 census. All right, 50% are not married, although our marriage rate has went up, because before it was about 26%, now it's up to 30%. More men are getting married, according to the statistics. So, but comparatively, if we look at the 1950s and 60s, where we were like 85%, that's when you could get married straight out of high school. Okay, you knew how to weld, you knew how to work on a car, you knew how to do stenography work or shorthand or something. You had a skill that could, at 18 years old, you could go out into the world and be able to make money with that skill. That's not the way it is anymore. You got to trade school, college, the military, something, right? Which changes that age bracket to about 22, 23 years old before you're even able to financially handle marriage. All right. So plus with the, inflation and the rising cost of just living, period, I think these numbers have to come into question based upon these new parameters that we're having to look at to see what are we actually talking about, because we're basing things off of 19, legally somebody can get married at 16 years old, but nobody gets married at 16 years old. Okay, maybe a few people, right? But nobody, not like grandma and grandpa. Well, grandma was 16 and grandpa was 17, or that sort of thing. That's just not happening now. See, so
do you all have a take on men or women who have kids then later down the line decide to be within same-sex marriage? So is marriage something that we as a society should look at from a traditional sense, or do we need to change our lens and be more acceptable of love, of the idea that love will always rule, whether in the traditional sense or not?
You don't want to hear from me.
I don't know.
And something John Wah brought up, a couple weeks ago, which is the definition of sex is between a male and female and vaginal intercourse. So anything outside of that, is not really sex. He said it's mutual ejaculation. So, and it's a very interesting
might
point.
Might not come at the same time, but
Well, basically, so this idea that everything is love, is it really love or is it lust? Because, my viewpoint is, males and females, obviously they fit, two penises don't fit and two vaginas don't fit. And so is that really sexuality? I mean, and to call it love, or is it just lust?
Well, I'm gonna say this. I don't know enough about homosexuality to really understand how somebody could get married to a man or a woman, and then years later, after they've had children, all of a sudden want to be with the same sex. I don't know enough about it to really kind of comment on that. I mean, that's something I guess worth to be studied and explored and all of this kind of stuff to get a better understanding. But
I would say that I mean, I don't think a person just wakes up one day and is like, you know what? I've been heterosexual my whole life. I want to be gay. I don't think that happens. I think that that's something that was going on in a sense before the person got married, and ultimately as the kids got older, they finally feel like, you know what, y'all gonna be okay. I'm gonna just step next door over here and
Do me.
break up this monotony and do me for a
Yeah.
little bit. But I'm here for y'all, but I'm gonna just step next door here. So I kind of feel like, there's an issue with, in a situation like that, there's an issue with people who have yet to explore themselves and know themselves before they bring their baggage to someone else. Because I mean, that's got to be devastating for anyone who's ever been in a situation like that, that their spouse left them for a same-sex situation. It's like, good Lord. I mean, I don't know, but that could break a person emotionally. Man, I was so terrible at this that you decided you didn't even want to give any other heterosexual people another try. Good Lord.
Yeah.
I was so bad at this that you just decided your girlfriend was better, and man, like, you know what I mean? Like that could just be, or for a woman, I was so bad at this that you're doing more than playing golf with your buddy. So
Here's all.
That's crazy. It's wild. And go ahead, Michon.
I'm just gonna throw this in here. When I was working at Brown School with these children, 16, 17, and 18, and we had a box. And the box is you can put anything that you wanted in there, and we would have to be forced to answer it if we answered it. And what was the ongoing thing that was in the box, okay, is these young kids were saying, Mr. B or Miss Taylor, Miss Pat, if do it make you gay or lesbian if you do something one time because someone tricked you or caused you to do something? Does that make you gay or lesbian just because you tried it or you done something? And the reason why I bring that up, because that's the society we live in right now today. You got people who are, this is why I started realizing that just like they're heterosexual, what they say, alpha, we're predators, there's heterosexual predators. There are homosexual and lesbian predators, okay? We got people who are feeding on babies and children out here who maybe, don't come in from broken homes, looking for love and everything, and finding themselves being manipulated and captured in something. So I remember me having to say, a sin is a sin, a wrong is a wrong. Just because you try it, it doesn't make you condone and convicted to it. So I think we have a society where you got people trying things or doing things, and then you got other people making them feel like, oh, you gay or you lesbian and everything. You need to go down there. Lesbian, you've been that way the whole time. And I just think that's the society we live in today. If you try something, you do something, and everything, now they're convicting you into that. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? It's a slippery slope right now. Everything's open, and once you try it, then they try to convict.
Those kids, were you ascertaining that they were molested or had with a relative when they said they were tricked, or what was your sense?
No, what they were saying is they were having friends they were like people they were friends with, and they come to them in confidentialities concerning, maybe something going on at the house or what it is, and they come to them, and these people are just looking for love or someone to have an ear, and they found themselves, engaged in a lesbian or a homosexual situation that they themselves originally wasn't looking for. Okay, they were just looking for an ear or looking for someone to care for them and or listen to them, and they found themselves tricked into something. That was the overall consensus, is that they found themselves being manipulated into something that they themselves originally wasn't looking for.
Yeah. It's one point. So many different perspectives when it comes to marriage, to the point to where it is no longer linear. We don't have to accept it, but I'm learning we all have to respect everyone's personal choice. And I feel like the same thing with what you're talking about, here.
I don't know. Do we
Sure.
really? I would challenge that. If someone wants to kill someone, do we have to accept their personal choice, or to steal from someone?
Yeah, and I mean, I think
Yeah, I
even
think
in
that's
with
part of
what me
what I'm
showing,
hearing is a little wishy-washy. That's the problem we've gotten into. There's no absolute values. When you take the creator and God out of a situation, there is no absolute, and everything, and that's the whole neo-Marxist, postmodernist. Every choice is the same. You can't shoot. How dare you challenge someone else? And I think that's very frivolous thought pattern, but that is the modern world. And I think that's very, very dangerous. Where's that going to get us? Every choice is the same. I don't
Well,
think so.
well, again, that speaks upon freedom. Who determines how a person interprets God, or if they interpret God at all? See, so
exactly.
that's if you're in a free society, then especially in a society where church and state are separated, and then you have freedom of religion or not to have religion at all. Now where's your moral compass? Now where how do you figure all of this stuff out when you're protected under the law of being free? So it's like I said, Peter, I think you're right. It is a very slippery slope, and you ideally would like people to have at least, if not the same faith, then maybe the same morality. Okay, the
Yeah.
same.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, is lying okay, or stealing okay? Is violence, against your neighbor okay? So
But I,
those are choices too. I mean, it's funny how when it comes to sexuality and perversion, everyone's saying, "Yeah, man, whatever. If it feels good, do it." But challenge them. Well, if I want to be a rapist, that's my choice. What's wrong with that? You
well,
can't challenge me
I
on
don't
it.
think I don't think that's a fair. I don't think that's a fair comparison because we know nobody. All right. I don't think anybody likes murderers or rapists or condones any of that.
Well, the
But
rapists do. The rapists.
but
Well, yeah, I mean, there could be a culture of rapists. I mean, right now there's a culture of pedophilia where they're doing TED Talks and everything,
Yeah.
talking about how it's okay to love who you want to love.
and,
You
and
know,
those
and
I guarantee you, those people on the FBI watch list. Right?
be that as it may.
Yourself as a pedophile. Okay,
The
so
FBI,
let's.
the elite are full of pedophiles and
Oh yeah.
sexually deviant people. The
Yeah.
elite class is pushing all that.
You look at Epstein. So, but my point is that yeah, there has to be a standard, but I think we can agree that when we're talking about consensual adults, all right, who is one? When we're talking about people that can, consenting adults, who can say what is right for one compared to the other one? Now, morally, I can say it, all right, because I have my own standards and values. But if we're talking freedom here, see, that's where you get of all right. So if everything has to be conformed to this, now you lack freedom. Now there is no freedom. Okay. See, so if there's freedom, then you have to accept, not so much accept or even agree, but have to respect the fact, okay, this person is free. They make their choices. I don't have to agree with it, but they can live. We'll just let them live and let live, and they can go off and do what they want to do over there. So as long as they ain't raping and killing and mutilating and cutting people up and eating them. So
yeah, well, until that becomes normalized,
Right.
and that's the problem with a lot of this stuff because I mean, to know that there are and I know you got to go, Brother Leonard. So I did want to, before you go, just say peace. Appreciate you jumping on, and we'll see you next week. But all right, brother. I just wanted to say, until things become normalized, you've got the situation right now. Like this is happening right now, where people are trying to normalize pedophilia, to say that you know it's okay to love who you love. You can't control who you love. So if an adult man or an adult woman falls quote unquote in love with a child, that's okay. Now we saw this with the whole gender thing that's going on, and all of this stuff, people trying to go gender neutral. We've seen this. We were laughing at Shanae. All right, we thought that was funny, and ultimately we thought it was a joke. And in Living Color and all of that, they brought all of that stuff out. We ourselves as a people brought a lot of this stuff out, being funny about it. They did it too. Robin Williams and all that in a dress, and all this stuff.
Right.
And what we've done culturally is we've always copied them, right? Because that's supposed to be the road to success. So we've copied them, and we do the same thing in movies and this, that, and the other. And now we got a culture of people that are okay with seeing men in dresses, and then boom, next thing you know, you got men in dresses as a normal part of society. And now we're having conversations about the man that raped several women in a prison because he identified as a woman, which is why he got sent to a women's prison. Dumb. So here we are with pedophilia right here at the steps as something that there is trying to be normalized. The question is, what do we do? Do we get a group of elite assassins together that all believe in the same cause and get them to go get rid of some of these Marxist nonsensical thought processes? Because the society that we signed up for in America is supposed to be this, but it's swaying and going here. I mean, is that the answer?
Well, yeah. You know what's interesting? You bring that up. Oh, so there was a document that the gay movement has used called the Gay Manifesto. I think I spoke about it, but it was 11-point plan, and number 9 was gays in the military. Remember, Obama passed that. Number 10 along their path was gay marriage. Well, number 11 on their agenda is lowering the age of consent to 12. So that's what you're talking about, Joe. So it's not like this is just, and it's funny because when I debated, they start with hate crimes, interesting, which is their first point. Hate crimes, and because once you get sexual orientation as a matter of a classification, you can just run with it. So hate crimes and housing, employment, domestic partnership, but then 9 was gays in the military, 10 was gay marriage, and then number 11, lowering the age of consent, sexual activity to 12. So this is not like it's just came out of nowhere. This is their plan.
And this is now say this again, Peter. This is what now? This is the Gay Man's Manifesto. Where did this come from?
Well, it was the gay movement had some gay Fifth Avenue, New York marketing experts put together this Gay Manifesto, and it was their roadmap for how to get legislation passed. And it's very interesting because one thing they said is, don't talk about our sexuality. Don't talk about 2 men screwing each other or doing the Watusi. Talk about us as victims. If we push ourselves as victims, and Mishra, and they even said Christian people will come to our defense as victim where they won't if we tell about, hey, we want to screw another guy in the butt. So what have they been doing? Victim. They're victims. So the hate crimes was, hey, these are people with special victim. So they laid out this whole strategy. They also laid out a strategy using culture that we've talked about, is showing gay couples in great lights, the Will and Graces, and these people, pushing them in the media, and we will desensitize the American people who not really favorable of it. Anyway, it was a brilliant, I mean, I would say demonic plan, but a very brilliant. So they laid out the 11 points of how they would get to where they want to, their agenda. The first step was to introduce hate crimes ordinance that included sexual orientation. So the civil rights statutes.
The fairness thing, that's where they came up with fairness.
Yeah, here in Louisville was the Fairness Amendment. Now, interesting, they spent 7 years in Louisville planning for the Fairness Amendment, and then they came out with it in 1990. But they actually spent 7 years putting their organization and plan, and they did introduce the hate crimes ordinance. And as we've said, their strategy also was we're not going to have European Americans introduce this legislation. We're going to have African American political leaders. So every city in America, including Louisville, Paul Bather, Alderman Paul Bather, which is Shawnee neighborhood, Michon's old neighborhood, introduced the hate crimes ordinance. And it passed. And then in 1991, they introduced the Fairness Amendment, which included sexual orientation and housing and job discrimination. And the interesting point about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Peter, since Peter brought that up, since I lived in the West End community during that period of time, what Peter's talking about is, and that's where Andy was still around too. Andy Hodges. What's interesting about, they knew exactly how to infiltrate and pass those things. They came through, our organizations like the Urban League, the NWCP, and they got our demographics of people to represent that, the males and the females to do it, even though it was being financed by the dominant European culture. I remember that so immediately. I remember talking to her. I said, how is this a fairness thing? Remember I told you, Peter, that a very attractive woman, I can't think of her name, very attractive woman. I thought we was talking on the same thing and everything. And I went to, and then she invited me to come to a meeting, and come to find out it was a lesbian and gay and everything. I thought we was fighting for the same thing, to stopping crime and violence. Stopping violence was a fairness thing to it was like what's funny? I guess
what's funny is when you said earlier about accidental, about people accidentally, and this that. And I mean, that is an example of accidental, if I ever seen one. Accidentally end up
it was
a support of homosexuality.
It was an anti-gun.
But that didn't just happen to me. Who else did that happen to?
Yeah, remember Luther Brown,
Peter? It also happened not just me. It happened to Brown. Brown happened the same thing with him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an anti-violence gun, and they brought him to DC, flew him in there, and it was all homosexuals and lesbians, and it was, but their strategy, and this is part of their strategy. Just think about it. If you infiltrate every organization and you give them money too, that they need, you become the leaders. And that's what they did. They infiltrated all the civil rights organizations. There's not a single national civil rights organization that's not pro-homosexual. Al Sharpton is pro-homosexual. NAACP, our friend Marcus's organization, Urban League, they're all pro-homosexual and pro-abortion too. But when you look at their money, they get a lot of money from the homosexual movement, and so they buy them off.
So they in bed with them. Yes, they buy them off. They buy the South.
They in bed with homosexuals. They're getting a lot of money from their homies. When you look at these data points here, 3.5% of adults in the U.S. identify as LGB. When was this written? Because they're missing some letters and stuff out there. But lesbian, I guess they're just trying to say LGB so far. But here, let's.
Remember that video we saw with Bill Maher? He dictated that because they've been grooming young people. It's up to 20% of millennials now. It's doubling
Yeah.
every 10 years.
So according to this, they're saying I'm trying to find when it was written, but I cannot see a date here. But nonetheless, 3.5% of adults in the U.S. identify as LGB, lesbian, that's lesbian, gay, and bi. 0.3%, which 0.3% identify as transgender, and let's see, 1.8% of adults identify as bisexual. 1.7% of identify as gay or lesbian. 11% of adults in the U.S. report same-sex attraction. Huh. Okay. 8.2% report engaging in same-sex behavior. You know, I remember when I was young, I always thought that was a statistic among women in college. I had a number that said that if by age 25, all women who went to college had at least one lesbian sexual encounter. Just because what I seen growing up, hanging out. 3.4% of women identify as lesbian or bisexual, and 3.6% of men identify as gay or bisexual. Interesting numbers there, you know.
Yeah, it's still a relatively small. Now, in the 90s, when the Fairness Amendment, that number was like 1.5% were gay. So it's almost tripled in that period in the last 30 years. And
yeah. Here's LGBT identification in the U.S. ticks up to 71.1%. You know what? This is an angle that I'm not thinking of until now. Of part of the reasons why there's more men ready to get married than women. There's probably a sect of people, of men, who are trying to hide there still, because that was culture, that's where the down low culture came from, trying to hide the fact that they are gay. There's more, I think there's more of an acceptance among women still today of women being lesbian than there is of men being homosexual or gay. So that could be one reason why there's more men ready to get married than women, just because there's a certain small percentage of that are trying to hide. But at the same time, I mean, I think that's something innate and natural in a man, is like John said recently on the show, they want to protect, you know, and these are things that are embedded in a man to secure, protect a woman. That's kind of a natural thing there, right?
Yeah.
But I want to go back to what I said. Why don't we go back to what I said earlier? I said we have predators in our community, or who are lesbians or gays, that are not predators going after people who they knowingly know are gay or lesbian. These predators are feeding on the broken children, the individuals who may be hurting, or those individuals don't even realize that they have, these individuals hadn't even thought about being gay or lesbian and everything, and they buy and getting them to engage and participate in gay and lesbian. I believe that's why the numbers have gone up. See, the numbers have gone up because we don't have people who are going after people who are actually knowing that they're gay and they lesbian. We got people who going after people who don't even have one way or the other, and they got themselves tripped into it. And once you try it, that's what these kids were saying. Does that make me gay or lesbian because I done something? And I tell them, no, it doesn't make you gay or lesbian. Just because, but they being forced to say that they are because they tried it or they did it. Okay. See, that's why these numbers have gone up. Y'all getting these numbers. And I actually brought this up in front of some gay and lesbian guys. And they looked at me. I said, it'll be different. I said, it'd be different if all you did is went after people that you knew that were gay. But that's not what's going on. You got people who are predators on children or individuals who feel weak and everything, and you feeding on them, and once they try it or they do it, now you're labeling them as gay and lesbian. You see why those numbers going up? Those numbers going up for a reason.
Well, I mean, and then at the same time, a lot of those predators are in the workplace. I mean, I know a few women who, whether they identify now as lesbian or not, like I know one girl, she's, you know, definitely stone cold lesbian. And I remember her, you know, years ago growing up in Richmond, VA, she said that her coach, her basketball coach at school when she was 13 is the one that turned her out.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember another young lady, you know, she's hetero, but she can remember being on a church event where they went camping or something, you know, and you know, an encounter, a sexual encounter with one of the older female staff in that. So, you know, there's a situation where you got somebody, you know, even in those two examples, the church event, that was a one-time situation. They probably won't going to see that other staff member as much anymore. Whereas the coach is going to see that child more often and then continue to, after they've turned them out or whatever the case may be, they're going to continue to prey on them, and then continue. So now that's where the one girl, it's interesting that I'm making this correlation right now, but the one girl goes off and becomes stone cold, straight up, you know, lesbian, whereas the other girl, you know, her one-time experience and not having continual exposure to that staff member becomes a situation where she, you know, she goes on and has a traditional heterosexual life.
Yeah,
so
Joe,
that's just interesting.
That's
an interesting thing, because we talked about Brittany Griner. So I saw something, and it's related to the basketball. Female basketball players are very high level of lesbian, and what this person was saying was the coaches and then the older, like even in high school and in college, they recruit and turn out these younger female basketball players, turn them into lesbians. And that's very prominent because it's very interesting that there's a high level of women basketball players that are lesbian, much higher than the society because they're actually being groomed. Same thing with soccer.
I mean, college. I mean,
I discovered that over 15 years ago when this I was talking to some guy and it was kind of like an aha moment, like an epiphany, is that you need to be careful about the environment you in. You get around certain people and everything who's actually turning you out. You know, these children being manipulated. I mean, they being, you know, I didn't even think about what y'all just said. When you are in a closed, forced environment of constantly engaged, it makes sense that you would get turned out. Okay, you know,
and that will become your norm.
That become your norm, right?
Especially when it's a person of authority over you, and then you're getting special treatment from that person.
Well, they said this female basketball player on YouTube was saying it's the coaches, but it's also the seniors target the freshmen. Yeah. So as soon as they join the team, these bulldog lesbians target them, and, you know, it's almost like they gotta go with the program, and that's quite interesting.
Sisterhood. It makes you wonder though, like when it comes to the coaches of you know, how many other girls and how many years of this is this going on, and how many other girls did she turn out, and then those girls end up emulating the same behavior as they get older.
That's exactly,
and they have a constant flow of newbies coming in that they get to manipulate. Woo, man! Straight men and women are now the minority.
We sitting here talking about this, man, but I'm telling you, this is real real truth. And the only reason I happen to know it is because when I was working in that Brown school, those little kids was telling me about that. That's exactly what they were talking about. Mr. Michon, does that make me gay? And does that make me a lesbian just because someone, caused me to do something that I didn't know I was doing, and now telling me I'm gay and I'm lesbian? And I had to tell them, a sin is a sin. You can sin once, okay, and you can sin no more. But do not let no one make you feel like just because you've done something, you are scarred for life. That's a lie. And I mean, that was a powerful thing for me to say to these kids, the children, to let them know. And a lot of them, I remember this one young lady, this one little girl who my wife and I was in the mall, and a European girl, and she ran up to me and hugged me and said, "Mr. Michon." Mother said, "Oh, you're Mr. Michon." I said, "Yes." She said, and her mother hugged me and said, "Thank you." She said, all she did is talk about how you helped her. She said, she's not the same little girl that she was until she came to your class. And this is one of the, I don't know for sure, but I'm almost certain that she's one of the ones that had wrote that thing, talking about someone trying to force her a lesbian position in her because she done something once. So can you follow me?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how this relates to our discussion on marriage, the importance of marriage. So in both England and United States, they've done studies, and boyfriends and live-in boyfriends are 10 times more likely to molest the children than the fathers.
Yes.
And that's pretty much been done studies. So think about it. So if unfortunately it happened.
Hold on. Say that again. You're saying boys. You talking about the brothers in the family?
No, I'm talking about if you have a father.
She's talking about
a father versus a boyfriend. The boyfriends are 10 times more likely to molest the children in the home than a father is.
Wow.
10 to 15 times. And these studies were done in England and done in the United States. So that shows the importance of marriage, because it happens, unfortunately. Father would molest children, which is crazy, but the fact is that boyfriends are 10 to 15 times more likely to molest children than if it's their biological child.
Well,
so how
I
does
can
that
definitely
impact the importance of marriage versus living together, shacking up, And there's all sorts of situations. We don't want to be too harsh on it, but that's, for a mom, that's very important to know. They need to know this information. Like, well, you may think it's cool having different boyfriends over and in the house, and they're not going to mess with my children. Well, they're 10, 15 times more than if you have a biological father or the father of that child.
And I know multiple women who the mother's boyfriend was the one who molested them, tried to molest them. The mother's or the stepmother's husband, new to the family, was the one who tried to. I know countless stories like that.
Yeah, there's
and
a lot of those.
It's crazy. And here's one of the things right here, which makes so much sense with what we're saying.
Like being a young lady and not having a father, not having big brothers, not having nobody that's going to step in and defend you, and being out here in the world. When men find out that they don't have to answer to a man about how they handled you, be prepared for a motherfucker to do anything to you. Brace yourself. Brace your fucking self. There are things that happen to women, exclusively to women, that men know they don't have to deal with a man about her.
Right.
Like being a young lady.
Yep. It's and that's the thing. That's why, again, we go back to the idea, and that's why on this show we speak so much about men being so important in the household.
That's right.
The father,
you hit it right. That hit right.
Yep.
She said that
Yep.
if you don't have, if the men know they have no man to answer to, they don't have a father,
That's right.
uncle.
That's right.
And that's
you
why
hit it right
I
on
did
the-
that. Remember what I told you about my daughter? I
Yeah.
did that, recently, and made sure that my presence was known, understood.
I did.
I
did that
told
with
her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, I told her
Exactly.
boyfriend about my favorite pet, named 40 Caliber, and all of that stuff. I pulled her to the side and I said, hey, listen, any guy who you find interest in or what have you, just as long as those guys know that you got a daddy that could be quite off his rocker if you ever mess with his baby girl around, you will never have any problems with any of those boys, and they will respect you. And the ones that don't respect you, knowing that I'm around, they will bounce.
You know what's a funny story about this? And this relates to us in Louisville. So and this was probably 15 years ago, it was in the New Courier Journal. There was a fullback on the Cardinal team, and his father was a foreign mercenary, was killing, overseas soldier. And he said, he told the story that his sister, the fullback's sister, boyfriend came over, and the father sat him down, and he had pictures of people he had killed, and he showed this he showed this dude. He said, I killed these guys for money. And then he said, imagine what I'll do if someone hurts my daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to say this is good conversation.
That's real.
Here's something interesting.
Important.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Michon. And reading this here, what Johnny said, she says, I have had to put myself back in church just so that I could see what a man is and how a man protects women. It is a scary world out here for both men and women, and I agree with that. I mean, even with my lady going back to church and things of that nature, really just trying to create a foundation. It's not necessarily about the religious side of it, but it's just the idea of a foundation and trying to create that pathway towards spiritual connection once again. So I think that's important. Absolutely.
Faith is encouraged, and marriage typically in most churches are encouraged. So yeah, it's very valuable. The socialization of people when they're around other married couples and other families, they that's the so-called societal norm. And if they're not around that, all they see is dysfunction. No wonder why they're easily swayed away.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man. Go ahead, Michon.
I just want to say that this is the reason why I don't mind. I welcome to be in the company of all type of males and everything. But my primary is married men. I don't mind the single brothers that like to hang out with me and everything. And from the beginning of it, I used to invite them all the time. But then I got to a point. I said, "Listen up, bro. I don't mind. We can hang out and everything. But I always remind them I got a date night with my wife. I got certain things I got to do and everything. My wife needs my attention and everything. I let them know I got a relationship that's very important to me. So I always let them understand that's a priority. A priority is not something I just do just happens to. It's a priority of mine. And I think because of that, I've been able to help develop other guys into marriage and understand the importance of that. But I don't take that as lightly. I got that from the men that I was hanging out with in the military. They always marriage was a priority thing. And I've never forgotten that first sergeant telling us when I was single and we was getting ready to go out to the field. He said, "You married men, you know what you need to do before you go out in this field. You need to handle your business, do the things you need to do." Then he tell the single guys, he said, all you single guys, it's a shame. And if you don't know how to go get it, you better go get it and get it taken care of and everything. But don't bring that weak stuff back to don't bring that weak stuff to the field and everything if you ain't got it under handle. And all he was saying is that marriage, you have a place, a home, an environment to take care of things. When you're out there in the wild, it's crazy out there and it's crazy for you. So it's better to try to be in marriage than to just be out there crazy and out there in the wild and everything, not handling your business. Do that make sense?
No, it makes absolute sense. And I mean, I find that my circle in general more so is of married, traditionally, you know, a little bit older. But even the single men in my circle, immediate circle, are men who are looking to get married, want to get married, and you know, they're successful people, you know, and all of these people that are around me are all successful financially and successful you know, in marriage or what have you, or on their way to marriage. So, you know, I think it's important that that your circle reflect what it is that you're trying to do in life,
exactly,
and what it is, where you're trying to go. Because if it reflects mediocrity, if it reflects, you know, something that you're trying to get away from, then I think that is where things fall apart. I want to play this clip real quick, you know, before we get out of here. And I think it's a really good clip, and I want you guys to watch it. Tell me what you think. But it's these are three tips for a great marriage. All right, so let's watch this and take a peek at it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't scroll because you see two old people.
I'm wearing my hair in the middle part.
And I have gray sweatpants on. We're so trendy.
So trendy. No, but honestly, you don't have to follow trends to have a good marriage.
We've been married almost 3 decades now. So we're going to give you our top 3 marriage tips so you can have a great marriage.
Number 1, don't use the D word.
She's not talking about that D word.
No, divorce.
We like the other D word, trust me. But you can't ever threaten divorce or talk about divorce, because guess what? If you do that, you're probably going to get divorced because you're bringing it up, puts it in your mind. It's till death do us part, and you have to act like that.
Secondly, keep your relationship number 1.
More important than your job, more important than your friends, more important than your in-laws.
And moms, it's more important than your kids and your girlfriends.
Boom. Lastly, number 3, you have to compromise.
I think a lot of people think, oh, if I find my soulmate, we won't have to compromise. We'll agree on everything.
Marriage is hard, guys, but it's really worth it. But you have to put that other person in front of yourself.
You can do it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't scroll because you see two.
You know,
all three.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially when he talked about they talked about marriage is more important than even your kids and your girlfriends. People don't get that. People do not get that at all, you know. But
all three very good examples. I like that you brought that in there, Joe. That was very good. Very good.
Hey, real quick, we might want to bring up on the show the top 3 reasons for divorce is number 1, arguments over sex, arguments over money, and then third-party intervention. So anyway, that's something maybe we can bring
that's that family that people think they're married to.
Yeah, the family or the mother-in-law said, well, you can do better than him, and or you know, friends that but it's money, sex, and then third-party intervention.
You know, and in a lot of cases, when you look at it, that third-party intervention is someone or someones that are single. They're not married.
I had that issue with my relationship. Someone gonna tell my wife, okay, because we was going through this. Do you need to divorce him, boy? I had to go over there and like, lay here. Yeah, I had to go here. If that's the best advice that you can give my wife, you need to not be giving her no advice. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Either stay out of her ear. Okay.
Yeah.
And guess
what? And that's the thing. And people should always look at that.
Then
You know,
I gotta
if
tell you-
the person is single, you know, then
Yeah.
then you should not be taking advice from them.
That's
That's why I don't
that's what I
like,
was saying.
I
And guess
don't
what?
take advice
After
from-
26 years of marriage, that person still divorced.
You say
But
after
like-
what?
I was saying I don't take advice from
I was saying
skinny
after
food critics.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. We got
I
to
was-
with the internet and everything. It looks like there's a delay. But me, Sean, what were you saying?
Said after 26 years of being married to my wife, the person that gave her that advice still not married. Hello.
Wow. And Peter?
Oh, I was just joking on that same line. Is I don't take food. I don't take food advice from a skinny food critic.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, you got to be you got to be in the midst. Looking like, and again, that goes back to taking the people in your circle, people who are either trying to go, and when we say try, not talking about it, but adamantly seeking the ability to go where you're trying to go, or people that are already there where they're already at where you're trying to go. So those are the type of people you should have in your circle. But unfortunately, sometimes people don't know that they need to let some people go.
So folks,
as you're moving on your journey, you may leave some people behind. That's okay. If they catch up, cool. But the reality is that your journey is your journey, and it's not anyone else's journey. So focus on your journey and move how you need to move for your life and happiness.
That's
And
good
with
advice.
that being said, we can go ahead and jump on the closeout of the show, folks. It's been real. It's another Truth Be Told show. We'll see y'all next week.
Take care.
All right, cue the music.
Cue music.
Start the music.
Starting music.
And go.
It's the Truth Be Told show, where we place America first. Honoring those who America has forgotten. Listen in and unlearn to relearn. As we set the record straight. And now, your host of the Truth Be Told show, Mr. Just Ask Joe and Uncle Mishorn.